Okay, Kate, I just want to start off by asking you to speak directly to the person who's choosing to spend an hour or so with us today. If they listen to this conversation with you, what are the things that are going to change and things that they can implement in their life based on our conversation today?
I think my biggest hope would be the biggest piece of, I guess, advice or wisdom that I would hope somebody could take from my experience in my 20s would be that the hardest thing to do is start. The hardest thing to do is change something about yourself, but it's also the most valuable and it's the most effective and it yields the biggest results, and that it's not as hard as it seems. And walking away from this, I just hope people would feel a sense of courage and bravery to reflect on themselves, to love themselves and embrace who they are, to then move forward and become the best version of themselves that they can be.
Well, I'm super excited for our conversation today because I think you're someone who's experienced so many polarizing sides of your 20s, and you've done it in a very beautiful and graceful and wonderful way where I can tell you've obviously learned a lot. It's been a privilege to see you through 5 years of your 20s. I think about you at 23 and it's crazy.
It is a dramatic difference.
It's a dramatic
for
shift.
sure. And I think that's probably the highest compliment I could receive. So thank you. That I would hope that every year somebody gets to say, it's a privilege to watch you grow and be different and be better.
Should we put that on a billboard? Wait, are we recording? Hey, it's me, Liv, and welcome to 20-something. I'm so grateful that you're here, and I'm so excited to start this podcast because I am all about creating a community of intentional people who are trying to make purposeful changes in their life and serve other people through it. I'm 27, and I'll be so honest with you. When I learned that your 20s are the most defining decade of your life, I panicked because I heard that studies show that by the time you're 35, 80% of some of the biggest decisions of your life have been made in terms of career, relationships, your personal identity, and on and on. And sometimes it feels a little messy and a little bit lost. So I figured what better way, whether you're 25, 35, or even 65, for us to spend a little bit of time together each week talking about those of us who are still in this defining decade, or maybe still feel like we're in this defining decade, of what are some of the tricks and the tips and the things people are doing to go through this decade in a meaningful, purposeful way that sets you up for the life you want to live later. I'm really excited for this first episode because, like I said, I want this podcast to feel very vulnerable, honest, and personal. And so I decided what better way to do that than bring on one of my very best friends. Today we talk about everything in your 20s, from dating to feeling like you're not fitting in, to identity formation, mental health, and even some physical health changes that you can make to be more healthy throughout your life. She's someone who had seemed to check off everything there is to check off by age 21. But then when that all kind of went up in flames, she had to start from ground zero. So she's in it. She's living it, and she's dealing with it in a way that's setting her up for a lot of future success throughout the rest of her life. I'm really excited to introduce you to our guest today. Kait has created this amazing videography business. It's called Kait Stone Films, and she travels all over the world capturing these beautiful memories for people. She's an avid marathon runner and health enthusiast. She's done everything from marathons to Spartans and does a lot of work with women, creating healthy, happy lifestyles. She also has created an amazing TikTok platform with over millions of viewers where she brings women together in an empowering, hilarious, and relatable way. So please help me welcome one of my very dearest friends, Kait Stone, Caitlin Stone.
That's right, Caitlin.
Welcome to the 20-somethings podcast. I'm so excited that you're here.
I'm also excited to be here.
There's truly no one that I think I have talked more about being in your 20-somethings with than you. So like I said before, I want this podcast to be very vulnerable and open and honest. And I think you do a brilliant job with that, with the way that you live your life.
Well, I'm flattered, but I think I appreciate you having me. I agree. We've had our fair share amount of conversations and experiences going through all of it. So thanks for letting me come.
Yeah. All right, Kait. So give the people a little background. I met you, I think we were like 23, which is crazy. We're in our elderly years now, 27.
Late 20s.
Late 20s. But you, at that point, had been divorced for months?
I don't even think I was technically divorced at that point, separated, I guess, at that point. So I think we met right around the time that I was filing for divorce and going through the divorce proceedings.
Man.
Yeah.
What a weird little time. Okay. So give us some background. Tell, like, walk us through that whole thing.
So I got married at 21 to my high school sweetheart. We'd spent 4 years together. And, after 2.5 years of being married, we ended up getting a divorce. And through that process, not only did I lose that relationship, obviously you also lose a family. I moved, I kind of reset my entire life. So it was obviously a fairly pivotal point in my life. And now it's been several years since all of that has happened. But in retrospect, looking back on it, it was probably the most pivotal moment of my life.
Oh, yeah.
So much that led up to it. I mean, that was a person, like I said, it was a high school sweetheart. So that's somebody that had been in my life since I was 16 and grew up in the same small town. And obviously the split of that marriage was devastating for a number of reasons. But I think one of the largest things was, like, I felt really lost in who I was as a person. And I think you lose when you grow up with somebody, you grow up within the bounds of that relationship, and then you split. And then it's confusing to then navigate that, not only in your 20s, which is already a pivotal point in your life, but you're then left navigating what you want to be, how you want to be, what you want to stand for. And that's kind of what the last few years of my life have been, is answering those questions and understanding how I would like to answer those questions and who I am and what I do stand for.
Yeah. Cause I think that was one thing that was really interesting about meeting you at that time. Like, I have never been married and I didn't know exactly what that all entailed, like separating all of the little nitty gritty details of that. Right. And I think that when you're 16, 17, you see people in their 20s and you're like, wow, they're so old and they have this all figured out. And I think you had achieved some level of that, right? Like your high school sweetheart, you had served a mission, you came home, got married, bought a house, started a business. Like you had checked off a lot of these boxes by what, 21? 21. Man, it's wild. So what was that like? Because I think that we all have a little bit of, oh, when I'm 22, when I'm this, I'll be married, I'll have a family, I'll have this job. And then you hit these kind of landmarks of ages and you're like, well, I unfortunately still feel like I'm 12 years old.
Well, I think there's such a framework laid out for us from the time that we are really young. I think there are expectations, especially growing up in Utah within, we're members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. There is an expectation to meet these mile markers. So a mile marker of graduating high school, serving a mission, going to college, getting married, having kids. And I mean, socially, it's acceptable to do that at a really young age. So I did fall into that demographic. And I think that was where a lot of the drive for that came from, was I knew that that was an expectation, whether that was placed from my parents or my family or society. But it mostly came from me. I wanted that. I wanted to achieve those things. And so, at the age of 21, I was like, hey, I am grinding through this. Like, I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to do. And I'm accomplishing every goal that I had set. And it just was almost factual to me by nature that I wanted to move forward. I wanted to progress in my life. And and then walking out of it and then being like presented with loss of a really unique kind, betrayal, hurt, obviously. And then with that, a loss of pretty much all of those things. Yeah. So that was unique in the sense that it was like, oh, for the first time I recognized, like it can be taken from you as easily as it can be given to you. And that created a lot of questions for me in my mind about, like, what is life about? What is the purpose? What is the most important thing? Is checking off the box the most important thing? Or these goals that I'm achieving, like, why are they being set? Why am I doing these things? And what do I want out of my life? And I think that kind of created large questions in my mind as far as what I wanted to do. And as I moved forward about, like, well, what goals do I need to achieve next? And what mile markers do I need to achieve next? And how do I want to do it? It's completely changed my perception on how I view all of that. Yeah. I mean, I think that you, and I've said this to you a million times, you're the friend that I think of where you'll come to me and you'll be like, you know what? I want to drive a Raptor. And then approximately 6 weeks later, you're driving the biggest freaking Raptor truck I have ever seen. Or you'll come to me and you say, oh, I want to start this new business, or even your videography business, right? You run and operate this insanely successful business where you travel all over the world shooting incredible
weddings, capturing these amazing moments. And that is not an easy feat to be able to set goals and then achieve them. And it's not even just these physical goals. I see you all the time, like with your health, right? Or even just like characteristics you want to work on. And it just seems like you are very good at achieving those and putting your head down and just making substantial, real, lasting changes in your life. How do you do that? Because I need to be better at that.
I don't think I perceive goals in the same way that a lot of people perceive goals. I don't make New Year's resolutions. I don't start new things at the beginning of the year because it's a new year and a new me. Typically, I think when things come, there's been a reason why that's been on my mind, right? So I think my physical health is a fantastic example of that. I've made lofty goals in that area, right? Like I wanted to run a marathon. Yeah. I do not have the body type, the build, the personality of a runner. I just decided one day, I was like, that sounds like something I would like to say that I've accomplished.
And you did drag me through that marathon, girl. You dragged me to the finish line.
and I actually think that that's probably one of the best examples and is an analogy I think I use when it comes to any type of other goal setting where, you know, how do you set and achieve goals? How do you accomplish things? How do you check off the mile markers of your life? The only answer I feel like I can give is like, you just do it.
Yeah.
And when faced with the fear of failure or loss or things not working out in your favor, I think what I've learned about myself is that I would rather just readjust and then continue on. It's almost, we hear the phrase like, oh, just try again. Like if you fail, try again. And it's like, that's so awesome. Sometimes though, it's not almost as dramatic as like trying again and failing. Sometimes it's micro adjustments you make every single day. And that tends to lead to far, greater and lasting change, I think. But as far as like making lasting change and setting and achieving goals and deciding to start a business, or even just like I look at my character and decide I'd like to correct a behavior, I think there's ways to go about that. And really what it is at the end of the day is trying to understand who you are, what you want to represent, and then aligning your behaviors with that. So I want to be the type of person that has a healthy lifestyle. So like so that when the choice comes to like, am I going to eat the brownie? Probably the answer is still yes.
As you should.
As I should.
As you should.
But it's like when it comes to making decisions that align you towards being a healthier, happier version of yourself, it's easier to make that goal because it's towards like the greater picture of who you are rather than like, oh, it's so important to me to like, if it's only an aesthetic thing where I want to look good, yeah, that's a piece of it. But like you want to feel good. You want to be a better person. And the drive, I think for me mostly comes from, I want to be like a good, kind, God-fearing, well-rounded person. Yeah. And these micro adjustments and micro decisions I make every single day are going to lead hopefully to the greater good of that. And then along the way, as a byproduct, you're going to accomplish your goals as you do that.
Yeah. Well, what I love so much about what you're saying, like if I'm hearing you right, it's just so much of it is maybe more than setting these lofty goals of like, I'm going to own this house or drive this car, or even more abstract goals like I'm going to be married by this or whatever it is, right? It's more about crafting your identity, and then you're able to make lasting change based off like knowing who you are. And it's really interesting, that book, The Defining Decade by Dr. J, says that like 80% of your biggest life decisions are made in your 20s or before you're 35. And I remember when you first came down and you moved down into Vineyard in Orem where we were, when we were hanging out with a lot of our friends, you would make the comment all the time, I just don't fit in here. And I remember saying to you so many times, what do you mean? And frankly, none of us fit in here. None of us know what we're doing playing volleyball at approximately 3 a.m. But you fit in just as much as the rest of us. And that was a comment you made very frequently, like, oh, I feel like I don't fit in here. So how have you gotten to that place, right, where it was like super uncomfortable, recently separated, walking out of a marriage and a commitment and all this stuff, to just the most intense social scene ever, to a place where you seem very settled in like your identity and who you are and able to make decisions that align with that?
I think that's a great question. And it's one that I wrestled with heavily for a long time. And I did feel like I didn't fit in. I think coming from, I married my high school sweetheart. I had never dated. Again, I went through college so quickly. It was never about the social scene for me. It was always, I had my eye on the prize, right?
And didn't you get your degree in like 3 months?
It was relatively quickly. Yeah. And it was because I just wanted to be done and I wanted to move on. I wanted to scale a business. I wanted to buy a home. I wanted to be married. I wanted to have kids. And I was well on my way to doing all of that. And so when I got what felt like thrown backwards years and years in where I had hoped to be, it was unsettling to be like, oh, I feel like I need to change certain aspects of myself in order to be accepted by my peers.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because what I now view as some of my greatest accomplishments, whether those are like tangible achievements or even like personal character growth that I'd seen in myself at that time, I felt the need to diminish that and make it smaller because those were certain things that I had experienced. Those were my lived experiences that shaped the person that I was. And it felt like a detriment because I was misunderstood, because I was perceived in a way, which now in retrospect, I think in general was probably received very positively by the people around me.
Yeah.
But all I could focus on was the fact that I did not belong because I wasn't supposed to be there. And I was supposed to be married.
You said that a lot too. Yeah. I'm really like, you made that comment frequently. I'm not supposed to be here.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, obviously that feeling for me came from a divorce, but I think probably everybody our age feels that to a degree. I'm not supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be married. I'm supposed to be in this career. I'm supposed to be doing this. And it is unsettling to be like, well, I mean, if I do trust in God and I trust that he has a plan for me, which I personally do, and that's what my belief system is centered on, then this is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
And the choices I'm making best reflect the version of myself I'd like to be. So in a way, I am supposed to be here, but it felt so unsettling to me to be like, this cannot be what God has for me. And this cannot be the plan that was set in place for me. And how am I supposed to just diminish everything that I am and everything that I stand for to fit in a space I don't actually even want to be in?
Yeah.
And I wrestled with that over and over and over, and it made me go crazy. And I think what ultimately led to the change of that was not even, the phrase that comes to mind is radical self-acceptance, but that it's not even that extreme. It was like these qualities that at times, even in dating, have been pointed out to me in a detrimental way. That I view my world in extremes, that I live my life at an intense level that is uncomfortable for other people. And I was like, oh, well, I guess I can see how that be perceived as negative by other people, but I actually love that about myself.
Yeah.
And so after years of attempting to change some of those qualities, I realized, well, I don't actually want to change them because those are my favorite qualities about myself.
Yeah.
And so rather than change them, I feel like I've kind of begun the process of embracing them and in the process, embracing the defining characteristics of other people. And it's like, I don't think anybody fits in or doesn't fit in. I think we're all unique individuals that provide unique opinions and qualities and that was, which sounds so basic and such a normal, like how did it take me that long to understand that? But when you're in it and you feel like the outlier, it's really difficult to come to terms with that.
Oh yeah. And I think you're highlighting something that almost everyone feels in dating at your 20-somethings as you're watching and you're like, well, those people figured it out, or she got asked out to do this. Or I've had some of our guy friends tell me like, well, I don't want to ask her out because what if she says no? And it's this constant battle of, am I enough? Am I putting out the right thing? Am I too much? Am I like, it's very confusing space to walk.
There's a lot of like checks and balances where it feels like you need to be driving the coolest car and you need to dress in the best way and the latest trends. And it's overwhelming. And I think there's an influence of social media. There's an influence of your peers and the community that you're in. And it's not to say that all of that's bad, but yeah, it is overwhelming. And it creates this false sense of identity that's built on what you think you should be rather than what you actually are and the best version of yourself, which typically comes from like the innate gifts and qualities that you've been given.
Yeah.
And I think it's really easy to try and shove that down because you may stand out because of certain qualities. And really at its core, I think by embracing who you are and like these gifts that you have for me, I think I do have a gift of like drive and ambition and loving to move to the next thing and try something new and put myself in uncomfortable situations. But by diminishing that, I remember even saying like, I feel like I've accomplished so little in the last few years since the divorce because I was trying so hard to fit into a space that was my focus rather than becoming better.
Yeah. I actually love the term radical self-acceptance that you said. I think that is what it is. And it sounds like for you that a lot of that comes down to like your belief you were saying in that like Heavenly Father, God has a plan for you, all those things. So is that, you think, like maybe the best way in order to do radical self-acceptance? Because I mean, I think it would be really nice to, I mean, we've all had so many things about ourselves where it's like, I don't love that about me, or maybe that's perceived weird. And sometimes it can be hard to be like, well, I'm just going to accept that about me. So does it come down to being rooted in that identity, or is it even just almost like faking it till you make it?
Well, I think it's kind of like what we were saying earlier, is like when you're setting and achieving goals, when you have an idea of what you're moving towards and the version of yourself you'd like to be. Like for me, I'd like to be the type of person that wakes up early and goes to the gym and sets and achieves goals.
Yeah, you have dragged me to start doing that for about the last 6 weeks.
So
and it's been awesome.
What's a critical piece of that is doing it.
Yeah.
Is, okay, well, if I want to wake up early and go to the gym, I need to go to bed early.
Yeah.
So part of it is, embracing who you are already. That is critical. But I think also when it's like, well, what do I want to be? And then you can kind of navigate these pieces that feed into that really well, I think. And for me, I don't think there's anyone more critical of myself than me. And I think it's good. Like every morning I wake up and I'm like, well, what do I want to be? How do I want to be perceived? Like what type of individual do I want to be 10 years from now? And it's like, well, is this moving me towards that? Yes or no?
Yeah.
And if it is, great. If it's not, okay, that's where adjustments come in. Some are bigger than others.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a defining characteristic of like, I also think some of these really critical pieces, like these qualities that make us who we are, they're usually double-edged swords. Because I can confidently say that the very best, like top of the list qualities that I love about myself, like perhaps that I'm known to be an intense person. I live my life at an intense level. I operate in black and whites. I see things and I go after it. That is like such a great quality. It also is like the worst thing about me at the same time, but it can be. And it's like, I think my ability to like, I think within that, yes, it provides so many great things. It also can be difficult in relationships. It can be difficult, I think, at times for me to manage my own self-expectation, and that can create anxiety and doubt and fears within myself. Yeah. So it's the best quality about me. It's a double-edged sword. So I think it's almost mitigating to like self-acceptance. Yes, it's accepting the quality. It's also accepting like, oh, well, there are things I get to work on and I can fix about myself. And that's like such a cool thing too, where it's like, this is awesome about me. So I'm going to accept that. And instead of focusing on the negative sides of it, I'm going to focus on what is so positive about this quality and embrace that and magnify that and hopefully mitigate the pieces that are maybe the not so positive sides of my personality. Yeah.
No, actually, as you're saying that, I'm like thinking about qualities within myself. And I think, and you know this, me and Kate have the same therapist and it's awesome. But we were talking about in therapy one time how one of my best qualities is being empathetic, but that it also tends to make me such a people pleaser. And it is this double-edged sword, right? Where it's like, I would say that's one of, I think the best things about myself is that I'm like, I can really be in tune with other people's emotions. I also can really get myself in sticky situations being a people pleaser.
I think that's a beautiful example of it. And I think it's like, you being so kind and empathetic and so friendly to everybody around you, and everybody in your life is like, you are my best friend. And they mean it sincerely because you make people feel welcomed and loved. And it's like, that is for sure at the top of the list of your best qualities.
But you've also seen me get
I've also seen
hard situations.
Some people-pleasing tendencies. And I'm like, well, just say no. And you're like, well, and I'm like, I don't get it. And that's probably, I think that's probably our biggest difference too, which is funny. And I think where we even each other out.
You've taught me a lot in that regard.
Taught me. I always tell people, I'm like, Liv makes me a much nicer person.
And you'll sit there and tell me like, you care way too much about that other person's happiness.
Yeah. And I think that's also a really valid point too, where like the people you surround yourself with, if they can also radically accept you for who you are, because you've seen some good and you have seen some really bad qualities about me, where it's like, well, but like, and that's true of like family members and friends and a romantic partner. Like the hope is not to be like put on this pedestal of like, I'm perfect and nothing's wrong with me. It's that when somebody views me and they're like, that is the best quality about you. At times, Kate, when you operate at such an intense level, you hurt the people around you in this way. And I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you for letting me know so that I can now correct that in myself. Yeah. And I think that's what's cool about like being, they say you are the culmination of like the 10 people you spend the most time with. Yeah. yeah, I would hope so. And I hope that those people would help me also be the best version of myself.
Well, I love so much about what you're saying, but I think what's really cool about all these things you've talked about so far is a lot of your 20s you feel like you can't control, right? But everything you're talking about are things you can very actively control, right? It's like the self deposits you're making for later in your future, which I think is what your 20s is all about, right? Like, is this going to make me healthier? Is this going to make me happier? Is this going to make me a better human being down the line? You're also talking about radical self-acceptance, which I'm like now going to use as a phrase all the time in my head, and the people you surround yourself with. And I think sometimes it's really easy to feel stuck in your 20s, whether it's like the social scene, the friend scene, all these things. And we've been saying this a lot lately. It's like, it's crazy. You just have free will and you could like up and change you want at any point.
You can change everything about your life. And I think through my divorce, I experienced that, where it was like, I am presented with a very drastic choice of what I get to do with my life. And when you get married, the reason a divorce is difficult is because you've built your whole life based off of the premise that you're going to spend it with that person and that's your family. And every decision you make for the rest of your life will be tied to that person. And then when for the first time you look at that and you go, well, actually, I'm not going to do that. And suddenly a whole new world is presented to you. And I think when you can keep that door open where it's like, I can be anything that I want.
Yeah.
I can be, that applies to a career. That applies to characteristics within yourself. I can be kind. I can be empathetic. I can be sympathetic. I can develop these qualities that maybe don't come naturally to me. And that's really cool too. But yeah, at any point you do have free will. You can change anything and everything about yourself and about your circumstances. And I think that's like such a hopeful thing to hold on to, where if you're not happy where you are, you can change it.
Yes. Even just being able to like take that knowledge and power with you, like this situation sucks right now, I can change it.
100%.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to read from you. In preparation for talking to you and things like this, I was talking to some of our friends just about how they feel about dating in their, later 20s, early 30s. And I had this excerpt given from one of my friends. And she says, I'm 31 and single, and honestly, I'm giving up hope. I feel like every person I ask out or either get asked out by doesn't want to settle, doesn't have the qualities I'm looking for. And it seems like all the good ones are already taken. I feel like I have zero prospects. It's hard to have motivation to go out on dates or ask people out on dates when I'm realizing, oh no, what if this never happens for me? What if the life I've never pictured happens? Is there something wrong with me? I want to live a full, happy life, and I actively am trying to be the best version of myself, but sometimes it's hard to do this on my own. Do you resonate with that? Do you is that a common thing that you hear from people, and what advice would you give?
Absolutely. I feel like I have that conversation every single day, whether that's friends or roommates or whatever it might be.
We have that conversation.
That is such a common way to feel. And I think what's so interesting about it, first of all, I've felt that way. And I think coming out of a divorce and navigating dating for the first time in my life in my mid-20s was terrifying to me. And I didn't understand it. And it felt so overwhelming. And that question of is there something wrong with me? Again, like we said, I think it's good to self-evaluate, but no, nothing's wrong with you. And that goes back to the radical self-acceptance. There is nothing wrong with you.
Yeah.
There is nothing wrong with you. I think if you're actively striving towards being the best version of yourself and being a good, kind person, wanting to be married is, in my opinion, the best goal you could ever have.
Yeah.
Having a family, wanting a husband, wanting to be a mother, wanting to have children, that's legitimately I think the most noble quest that you could hope for out of your life.
Yeah.
I think that's what most people want. And I think, of course, that's such a godly desire as well. I think where we get lost in that is, we start to blame ourselves or blame our community or blame our circumstances for why we're stuck in a difficult situation. And again, and this is kind of, I guess, I don't know if this is right or wrong, but the conclusion I've come to is this. I'm not married because I haven't found something worth committing myself to. And I think there's opportunities where it's I could have married someone I've dated in the past, and I don't know that would have been the most fruitful marriage that I could have had.
Yeah.
And probably having been married, I think I can see that with a broader spectrum maybe. I think for me, when it comes to dating and what I'm looking for, it's changed so dramatically. And there's no reality where I feel the need to commit myself to something that is not right.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about that. Like, what are you looking for? What are the questions that you ask?
I think it went from like, oh, do I get along and like this person and I don't know, share similar values.
Yeah.
That's all incredibly important. But what I found is like, if I'm surrounding myself with somebody, if somebody's in my life in general, typically that is already applicable.
That's a good point.
Like,
you're not hanging out with someone whose values are so different from yours and you don't like them. And yeah.
So it's like, well, yeah, that's all super important. That's also like not, I can't even say it's the bare minimum because it's like, that's just kind of like a given. Right? So when it comes to like what sets somebody apart from being somebody that I want to be friends with or have in my life to like being a partner with me, I think it's shared values. I think working towards a common goal, working towards similar things, and being committed to being a partner with that person. And what it takes to be committed to somebody is radical self-acceptance of you and radical acceptance of them, and being able to look at that person. You'll never find a perfect person, but finding someone who is equally committed to building a life with you. And I think the pieces fit there where it's a similar viewpoint on the world. It's similar values. It's getting along. It's viewing life through a similar lens, and then being able to say, I'm going to commit to you.
Yeah.
And I just think in our, in dating and doing all of this, it's like, every guy I've ever dated is great. They're great guys with great qualities. And those relationships haven't worked out, not because neither of us are great. Yeah. It's because at the end of the day, it's like, I think there's going to be qualities here that would prevent us from being the best versions of ourselves. So in my opinion, it's like, if this is somebody I'm going to spend the rest of my life with, this person is going to shape me the most out of any other human being on the planet. How am I supposed to just one day be like, all right, this one, after 2 months of knowing them, it's like, he's good enough. Yeah. I don't ever want it to be good enough. I want it to be great. I want it to be a good fit. I want it to be something that I never question and never worry about if I made the right choice. And I think it is worth waiting for. But the older you get, the harder it gets, because it's like, I know myself more now and I know non-negotiables that are crucial for me. Yeah. But I think that's like the hardest part, is people feeling like it's something to do with them. It's not. You just haven't met your match. Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. And I think that that's something really important. You mentioned that it's like, whether you got married, at 20, well, were you 20? 19? I had just turned 21. You were 20. Oh, when you got married. Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. Yeah. Anyways, but whether you're getting married that young or 28, 29, 30, 48, whatever it is, right? It's about finding someone that you can grow with. And I think you bring up also an interesting point in that it's not this, I'm going to find someone who's going to complete me and make my life okay. I don't believe in that. Neither do I. It's someone who is going to like compliment you and make you better, right? The word that I love is, I want my partner and I to magnify each other. So somebody who sees me and sees things that maybe have been previously criticized about my personality within other relationships, and instead magnifies, like I talked about how those qualities are a double-edged sword, magnifies the good qualities in me. And when I fall short and I am not the best version of myself, is a gentle corrector and helping me then magnify myself through the qualities that I've been given. And probably there will be times where I drive him crazy and he drives me crazy, and that's not what it's about. But a true partnership is magnifying each other to be the best version of yourselves, to be the best father and mother, to be the best husband and wife, to be the best friend you could be, the best son and daughter that you can be. And I think that to me is the hallmark of like what a fantastic relationship will be, is someone who helps magnify me, and I in turn can help magnify them to their highest potential. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I read this study the other day that like there's this epidemic of loneliness is kind of what it's being termed as, like sweeping through like young adults and adults in the United States right now. And I think some of that has come from COVID. I think that some of that comes from social media. I think that that's just kind of how it is right now. But then it's also been reported that 81% of those, like, because it's 1 in 2 or 1 out of 2 Americans, are saying that they're lonely, which it's 50%, which is a lot of people. And that 81% of those people are either struggling with depression or anxiety. So that's kind of my question to you, right? Where it's like, we're right now 20-somethings, you're building, you're growing, you're developing qualities in yourself to achieve this relationship. But in the meantime, where it might be a little bit lonely and it might be a little bit hard, what are ways that you can still like actively, that you're finding you're actively improving yourself and filling some of those, I don't know, when you're feeling lonely, without being like, wow, I just met the love of my life, or I just got the job I've always wanted for years and years and years, to like right now? I think because me getting married or me being in a relationship or me getting the job that I want or all of these things that I eventually would like to have in my life and know that I will have in my life, they're out of my control.
Yeah.
And especially when it comes to like a romantic relationship and a romantic partner, that requires another person's decision making and agency. So they get to decide just as much as I do if they want to be there. So it's not within my control, you know, when that comes, how it comes, how that's going to look. And what I've decided for myself is the only thing within my control is who I am. And when I think about who my future husband will be, I often think about like, okay, let's say he's my age, he's 27. What's he doing right now? What does he talk about? Who does he surround himself with? What are the conversations that he's having? Because it's only fair for me to expect that of myself. And I'm like, so for me, it's, yeah, I look for every opportunity for self-improvement. I would hope that he would be centered on Jesus Christ. So I too want to be centered on Jesus Christ. I would hope that he's pursuing a career to provide for our future family. So I too am pursuing a career to provide for my future family. And every decision I make right now is benefiting my future family. So I invest money into certain things. I analytically think about everything that I'm doing in order to provide the best life for a theoretical family I do not yet have. But I hope that when the day comes, it'll be so clear that my children were so loved before they were even a thought, that my husband was so loved before he was even a thought, and that my actions and behavior reflected the type of wife and mother I wanted to be. And so, yeah, I actively look for ways to change my behavior to reflect that and how I would hope my future husband would be presenting himself and acting and representing himself. And so I know that sounds so like silly almost.
No, I think it's powerful because then you're engaging in a lot of actions that are really fulfilling to yourself. You're not engaging in behaviors, or if you don't want to go to 1,000 parties, then you're not going to 1,000 parties. If you want to go on a date, then you will. And if you don't, then you won't. All of those actions that you're taking are serving you and your future family, which is really cool.
Yeah. And I think about how I'd like to spend my time. And I'm like, this is like the last time in my life that I will have such little responsibility.
Yeah.
So how am I choosing to act? How am I choosing to spend my time? And I love to have fun. I love to do things and travel and do things that probably won't be as readily accessible to me when I am married and have kids.
Yeah.
So there is plenty of that too, and enjoying the phase that I'm in and recognizing it is fleeting. This will be gone and I will be in a completely different stage of life. But also like every action I do has the thought of that because that's what I want. And that's like the number one goal that I have. So it's like, cool, well, I'm going to spend my time and energy bettering myself so that when that comes, I can confidently say I did everything I could to prepare myself for that.
Yeah. So for the person listening who, you know, we've talked about so many great things, but maybe is feeling like they don't know where to start, what would be the first action that you would say that they can do this today to start changing and improving their life today?
I think just really look introspectively. It's kind of like when a car engine fails, you have to open the hood to see what the problem is. You might see the smoke, you might hear the rattling, you might see the car not turning on, but you have to open the hood to look in there and see what the problem is. And I think a lot of us are so afraid to actually look underneath the hood and really face those things that we know we could be better at. We know that we ourselves need to improve. But it's interesting because the second you do that and you're faced with the reality and the fact of like, well, if I want to have more money, I need to stop spending money. That's like such a like qualitative way to view this, but like, well, you got to stop spending money.
And you should probably save some money.
So I think the best way, look under the hood and look at yourself and be like, okay, well, I'm not doing this. And I claim I want to be this type of person. I claim to be a God-fearing, God-following type of person, but I'm not reading my scriptures and I'm not praying. I'm going to make that change. I claim to be somebody who wants to get married, but I haven't been on a date in 2 years. Like, okay, well, start looking for opportunities to do that. Get on dating apps. Put yourself out there. Have a conversation. Talk to somebody at the grocery store. It really is like pretty small little things, but you got to take a look under the hood and assess and make a goal. And it can be like the tiniest, smallest thing. It literally could be like to say hi to somebody at the grocery store.
Yeah.
Put yourself in an uncomfortable situation and then just adjust.
Yeah.
And pivot and move forward.
And that's cool because I think that's just spending time with yourself.
Yeah.
I think that, you know, social media isn't a bad thing, but doom scrolling all the time, you're constantly seeing these people who seem to have everything that you're wanting. And it's like, well, how do I get there? And we forget that you're seeing them at 10 points down the road.
You're seeing them after they already did all the work.
Yeah.
So it's easy. And I think that there's so much to that point where social media paints this picture of, well, they have that, so why can't I have it? It's like, but you didn't work for it.
Yeah.
So I think there's such a value to like hard work makes you feel good. Hard work yields results. And I think that's true in personal growth, in financial growth, in spiritual growth. And I think like, so it's like I said, I'm not really a goal oriented person in the sense of like, oh, it's New Year's Eve. This year I'm going to do 10 push-ups a day.
Yeah.
That's not how I operate. But I think I would like to be a more empathetic person. So a way for me to do that is to go out of my way to ask people how they're feeling. It's like, it's just cause and effect.
Yeah.
I want to be this, so I'm going to do something that allows me to grow in that area.
Yeah. Well, Kait, to my fellow 20-something, to all of the rest of our fellow 20-somethings, or anyone who really still feels like they're 20-something, what are your parting words of advice?
I think my parting words would be, life is so beautiful and has so much to offer to you. And just because it hasn't worked out yet does not mean that it won't. And I've experienced some of the most beautiful moments of my life and some of the hardest moments of my life. So just because things haven't panned out yet, you are setting the framework. And I think the best thing you can do is actively work towards those things every day.
Well, I love that. And I love you. And thank you for coming on. You are beautiful and intelligent and wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're the best.
Thanks for having me.
Fire. You're really, really good. I wish every guest could speak like you. No, you're like insanely good.